Hey, everybody.
Woo, everybody. Good to
Oh,
see you.
good to see you. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead. Go
wow.
ahead. Turn your cameras on. Turn your cameras on.
Yeah,
Let's
good to
see
see
you. All
everybody. Oh
right.
my goodness. Oh, your little cat. I see.
Oh,
Oh, what's her name? Oh, really?
oh, that is such
Oh,
a
so precious. My
cutie. That's
goodness. She's
awesome.
so
Good.
cute. Yeah.
Well, I know you've been going to,
Oh,
you all been going to class, this whole time. And so it's time. We always forget to move our bodies. So we got to do a little bit of
let's
shaking.
do
So
it. Little
you
moving.
got to touch the corners of the screen with your index fingers there. Just like shake them out, shake out those hands, those hardworking hands, shake them out, shake them out. Now we'll do some
Everybody,
octopus
including
hands.
including you back there. I see. Why
That's
aren't you joining
right.
in? You can do it.
Yeah,
Come
yeah, go
on, just
ahead.
join it. Doesn't
Yeah,
have to be
just
much.
it's just fun. Yeah, just do it. We got to move. So everybody do octopus hands. Oh, this is classic arthritis, carpal tunnel prevention. All of us who are on the computer way too much. All right,
You
and
know,
then
I was
just
thinking of doing a project called
and then
called Rob's Octopus Hand Teacher, where I learn
enter.
from your octopus hands.
Ah, there we go. That's what our shoulders need. There we go. Up
Ooh,
above
that
our
feels
head.
good. That
There
feels
we
really good.
go. Awesome.
Yeah.
One of
Woo.
my arms, I keep feeling like it's not there, and
Yeah,
then
I
it comes
know.
back.
I
Okay.
know.
Anyway, welcome.
Fading to the background.
We're going to be doing some Netprov with you. He's Mark Marino.
Netprov, and he's Rob Wittig. He's Rob Wittig.
And together we're Marie,
Marabigadig.
something. Anyway,
Marigado.
we are longtime collaborators, have had a ton of fun over the years doing Netprovs together.
How many years, Rob? It feels like maybe well, on some level, I feel like 10 years is like this might be our 10-year anniversary right now.
I think
Of when we started doing this.
1887 was the first thing that really
Oh,
counts as a Netprov.
okay, 130 years. Yeah, sorry.
But that was yeah. But the name was different in that time,
Our
and it was
collaborations.
steam powered
Yeah.
at that time.
Well, that reminds me.
So
Don't the what's the term the Oulipo had for that? Anticipatory plagiarism, was that their phrase?
exactly, anticipatory plagiarism. Yes, we have plenty of people who were imitating us before our time.
Yes. The
So
Oulipo, you probably read about those in your course pack. Can I try saying it? I'm gonna try
yeah,
it, Robert. Then
absolutely.
you say it for real. Au
No.
revoir de littérature potentielle. All right, but now say it for real.
Ouvrir de la littérature potentielle.
Look how he makes all those noises, folks. He can do all sorts of stuff like that. That's why I work with him.
And it was this wonderful playground workshop of amazing writers who did writing with mathematical principles and mathematical constraints. And as my friend, the Oulipo member, Harry Matthews, used to always immediately say after people's eyes would go pop, say, what do you mean by mathematical literature? He would say, the sonnet, like the sonnet is a mathematical form.
I love it. I love it. So they were developing these new forms, and then something about their practice, though, you see as something that influenced
It's
Netprov,
that
right?
sense of experimentation. It's like, and it is this insistence on language as a material thing, as a thing, and not a kind of a metaphysical description of language, which is it's the way my soul communicates with your soul, and
Yeah, something
it's
essential
that
not
has
something that comes out of deep
yeah
within, but something that's a plaything.
yeah, because I mean, people, you can feel that way, and my feeling about language is that it's both as is often pointed out, like wholly inadequate to
Yeah,
communicate things,
wholly inadequate.
and amazingly effective at the same time,
Yeah.
astonishingly effective at the same time. So both those things are true. And Mark and I share a sense of fun, of creativity,
Lots of
and
fun. Lots of creativity.
a love outside of literature for stage improv. And so Netprov is in large part drawn from that, but Netprov also draws from as well, sort of experimental theater traditions in particular, and things like the commedia dell'arte, which is a very ancient form. It goes back to ancient Greece of standard characters. And one of the things Mark and I were talking about recently that I just love, that everybody knows from stage traditions, is how and a group of actors on stage, one actor will come to the edge of the stage, look out at the audience and say something, and all the other actors will not hear it. Right, which of course they can. They're only standing 10 feet away, right? So they can hear it. But there's this convention that you can talk to your audience that way. And the equivalent in Netprov is basically taking principles from like that, from theater, from games, from other fields, and doing them in writing and writing in images. Like that's how we collaborate.
And
And one of
this. Oh, well, I was going to
uh,
jump ahead and say it. I was
no,
going to say,
sorry.
and also the secret diary. That's what I was going to say. That's one of our
That's what I was
Netprov conventions.
that's what I was linking to, exactly. So the secret
That's
diary,
our
hashtag
stage
secret diary,
whisperer.
which so here's our free, this is our gift for everybody. You'll find it under your seat in a gold bag, but it's a hashtag secret diary. And how you use hashtag secret diary is in an email, in a text message to a group in particular, something like that.
On your
You
gas
put
bill, next gas bill when you go to pay it.
put hashtag secret diary and then share something or pretend to share something that normally would be inside. Like at this recent conference, I just shared, I was feeling like, as I often do at conferences, that, oh, I said something and I probably said something stupid. So I just, in the chat for the Zoom, I just put secret diary. Boy, I said something really stupid. I should have kept my mouth shut. And it was so sweet because other people then follow suit and start playing that secret diary game, which is both serious because I didn't 100% feel like I'd said something wrong, but I kind of felt like that. And it was,
it was a gift to everyone else too. That little allowance. Yeah.
It's sweet to share. And then other people were sharing about their vulnerability. So anyway, we highly recommend it. It's
kind of like a graduated parenthesis. Now that I think about it, in as much as a parenthetical in a sentence allows you to say something as though you could speak in multiple tones at the same time. Right. Like the rest of the sentence doesn't know what's going on in this parenthesis. So I'm just going to talk to you in here.
Exactly. I never thought about that, but that's exactly true. And yeah, it's just two curves. Curve at the end and curve at the beginning, and in between the curves. I love that sense that the rest of the sentence doesn't know what's happening inside the parentheses. So anyway, so we love the materiality of language. That's a perfect example of what we were talking about before in the Oulipo, like parentheses and all these kind of conventions.
Now, another thing that's great about the Oulipo that I just want to jump in there and say is also you notice that it does something that Rob absolutely loves, which is not only does it create a portmanteau out of like little letters in fun ways that are in French that gets them to show off that way, but also it allows us to take the great capital A artist, right? Shakespeare, Cicero, Dickinson, and instead to replace it with everybody. Everybody's an artist. All we need is what we need is the collaborative framework or playground for them to be able to join in and create something with us.
Exactly. So again, many different answers, all of them useful to what is Netprov, but Netprov is things that you already do in your everyday life. It's running jokes among friends in text messaging. It's like when somebody's cat has an account on Facebook and then it starts talking to another cat on Facebook, that's a Netprov. And so we saw people just playing with this kind of fun all the time. And Mark and I asked the question, how good can you get at this? How what would it take to make real art out of this? Because I'm convinced that these playful games that we do, that we see around us, can become art, just the way that stage improv can become art. And even though our things are mostly humorous, I would say, I'll speak for myself.
No, they're hilarious.
To do comedy stuff.
They're hilarious. I measured it on a special meter.
But it's just this really good reminder that stage improv, the classic Chicago style stage improv that so many generations of amazing American actors have come from, and all kinds of things.
Most of the cast of Saturday Night Live, if not,
so, all that stuff. It was originally not exclusively comedy. It's a creative way of doing. So
that's a good reminder.
We in our Netprovs, we like to do things. I love things that have what I call a swimming pool shape, which it starts out shallow and funny, and then it gets deep at the end once you get kind of into it and get hooked. Okay,
and Rob also likes it when story arcs end and two characters hooking up. Just so you know, that's a little.
So another way of saying it, what is Netprov? Netprov is you and 3 or 4 or 5 friends deciding to work up a fictional story in play characters in whatever medium. And the thing about Netprov is we use available media, whatever people are using at the time, whatever is people are using for real communication and real play. We say, what would fiction look like in that
Yeah,
in
so
that
that little bit
format.
ago, do you remember when Rob was like where he sort of glitched out and then he slowed down and then he sped up really quickly as though his internet was going badly over Zoom? That was Netprov right there. Right there. He was playing with the affordances of Zoom. Exactly. One more little phrase I want to throw out there that Rob loves from Mr. Del Close, co-founder of, well, one of the fathers of Chicago style improv, is play and go deep. So that's another
Yeah.
thing that sort of sums up what Rob was saying, that essence of like there's a something else we could go towards that for us might be literary or artistic or philosophical or whatever, so something with richer resonance for us, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be unplayful.
Let's look at a few examples of
Let's look
Netprovs,
at a few
shan't we?
examples. We shad. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I'm going to show you guys the Meanwhile Netprov Studios webpage where you can find many of these. By the way, you can also see a place to sign up for our MailChimp newsletter. You sign up right here, which is Future Netprovs, and you can find out all about them. And then we got various Netprovs at the bottom, and I will, there it is. There's our little slogan. You can get that bumper sticker if you'd like. Let's take a look at some of them from bygone days. Rob, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. This is a simple example of a kind of a quick concept Netprov. Some of them have story arcs that you can kind of plan out in advance, but this one is called 1 Week No Tech. And it's essentially you pretend that you're going for a week without any electronic technology and you tweet the hell out of it and just complain bitterly in Twitter how much you miss your phone and how much you miss your thing. So it's just a very simple joke, but it's one of those kinds of things where, you see 2 people doing it and 3 people, then you go, oh, I see what they're doing. They're pretending they can't get on. They have no access to media and they're complaining about it. So, and again, that can develop into stories that you can do duets with people. You can either improvise them or, again, a lot of what we love to do in Netprov is kind of, you have a little back channel things like, okay, let's pretend you hit a couple plot points. Like we're going to go for a week without technology and we're going to both get really sad and we're going to wind up at the same, bar or something like that. And like run into each other and take pictures and then bemoan the fact that we don't have our phones with us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun parts of this particular piece.
It's one of the big funs.
It had plenty of funs. Was that you could do one tweet and play 1 Week No Tech and call yourself an author and put that on your your resume, or you could play in with others in their adventures as you would. And so this is one of the ones that used primarily a hashtag and occurred over Twitter. We've run it twice so far. You're welcome to run it on your own if you'd like.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so next one up is one from your reading pack. As you read in your course pack, you read that beautiful article by your professor, Davin Heckman, the writerly text, where he talked about his experiences on Spidey Show, which I'll just give you the brief skinny. Took past and current reality TV stars Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag, or Heidi Pratt, who are actually starring once again in a reboot of The Hills. I think this is season 2 of the reboot of The Hills, A New Beginning. I guess this is The Hills, a continued new beginning, a new continuation.
Not quite as new as before.
Somewhat new, somewhat fresh beginning. And these are genuine reality TV stars who gave us access to their Twitter accounts so that we could stage for them the incredible Spidey Show, which was a reality show of reality shows that changed its format every single week, complete with a regular viewing once a week that happened, I think, at 8 p.m.
Right.
Mountain. Was that right?
And it was an imaginary TV show that we live tweeted for an hour every week. We pretended it was a live show and we tweeted it while it was supposedly happening, and we kind of created what the episode was about by just how we reacted to it on social media.
This image is no longer.
My image also is no longer available.
Anyway, you can read more about that in the article. And that one actually built on a previous Netprov we've done the same year. This is about 2013, I think it was, called Reality Being Spencer Pratt, where we imagined that, well, while Spencer Pratt, the actual person, the actor himself, was in the Celebrity Big Brother house in the UK, he loses his phone, and it is picked up by none other than an obscure British poet who realizes the power of reach that is in his hands now that he has access to this wonderful vehicle, and begins to play a series of, like anybody would, poetry games with Spencer Pratt's followers.
Yeah, and it was awesome because according to the rules of Big Brother, you can't have your phone for a month. They had to go without their phone. So, and Spencer called up Mark and said, "Hey, do you want to use? Would it be funny to use my phone while I'm in Celebrity Big Brother?" So we did a whole series of things, and actually, in the spirit of Oulipo, uh, the thing that just kind of cracked us up was just a sort of a pun between the British poet, historic British poet Edmund Spencer, and Spencer Pratt. And so we kind of got people playing poetry games as a way to earn, was it likes or?
Yeah, who knows? And well,
You were
and
sort of
speaking of the Ulipo, I should mention, by the way, or maybe retweets. That's what you get.
retweets. Yeah, you get a retweet.
Yeah. So speaking of the Ulipo, here's one of the Ulipo games, N+7, that's been resituated as a one of the Spencer games where you would take somebody's tweet and you'd play N+7 with it. We called it Pratt+7. So yeah, so these were various games that the people we would call the Temp Spence poets would play with us, and then we would archive what they came up with. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, we had your professor, Davin Heckman, playing along as Brutus Corbin and his mom.
That's right.
In some of the best story arcs. So in addition to this,
brilliantly.
So once a week at 8 p.m., we would pretend to watch this TV show that didn't exist, or this even net show that didn't exist. And then during the week, we would play out the storylines of the characters behind the scenes, like the Larry Sanders show, or like Mary Tyler Moore show, or like, I don't know, any number of other shows. The Muppet Show, I guess.
Jack Benny show on radio.
Yeah. Rob, why don't you tell me about I Work for the Web?
So I Work for the Web is a Netprov that kind of began when Mark got onto Facebook and just posted an ironic post about here he was clocking in to go to back to work at Facebook for Zuckerberg, liking things, because as you all know, by the way you browse around Facebook, by what you look at, and particularly by what you like and repost, they earn money off of every click that you make. And I don't know about you, but I've never gotten my check from Facebook for all the money that I've earned for them. So we were just sort of aware of this kind of free labor that gets donated to Facebook and other platforms. So Mark imagined a company sort of modeled on the old 19th century railroad monopolies that owns the entire internet and is led by a kind of arch villain, tycoonthropist, as Mark called him, Rockerhurst. And they are so happy to have everybody working for free that they start doing this kind of rah-rah, aren't you glad that you donate all this free work to the internet? And so what we imagine happened is that this rah-rah campaign that they were counting on that everybody would love starts to wake people up to the fact that they are working for free and that they are, this uncompensated labor. And so it creates a movement that results in a union, which has the same hashtag, the international something FaceTwit FaceTwit Workers Union, that starts to compete on that same hashtag as I Work for the Web. And there's a whole labor movement. And then there was a live event that many Netprovers think of as one of their very favorite moments in all their years of Netproving, where we were gathered at an imaginary, people from all around the world in Twitter, gathered in the workers bar, where everybody who is an unpaid social media worker, like all of us are, gathers for a drink after work. And then the union busting Pingertons come in and break up the meeting, and people get beat up and people get arrested. And there's a whole sort of micro version of American labor history in there. And finally, it ends with people walking out of, by taking photographs of their fingertips that do all that free labor, walking out of the web.
Yes,
So
indeed.
that's an example of a Netprov where it had that storyline is not something that just developed. It was kind of, we had a series of plot points over the course of time, and we kind of aimed everybody towards those plot points, but how they came to be and the individual posts, everybody's improvising. So that's just, if you decide to use Netprov as your final project in this class, just remember, you can do either completely open-ended ones like I work for the web, or you can do these ones where you've got kind of plot points that everybody is either made aware of explicitly beforehand, kind of out of the Netprov, but even within the fiction of the Netprov, you can guide people towards those plot points.
So some of those things we planned, and some of the things were emergent, like the walkout. I think totally emerged. And of
Yeah,
course,
that
the
was
initial
just,
question: what happened? You know, the night of the big Pinkerton's raid on the Nighthawks bar was something that, again, who knew where people would
yeah,
take that?
yep,
So, and of course, a couple of people we had playing along with us, you may have already read about this semester. There's Mez Breeze, and there's also Talon Mehmet, who played LinkedIn, the leader of the movement, the union movement.
yeah, the union organizer, yeah.
A more recent Netprov we did was called Destination Wedding 2070. And for that one, we were not doing it alone. We paired up with some collaborators who had worked with us, one of whom had worked with us before, Samara Haley Steele, who is a PhD candidate over at UC Davis, and also Dargan Frierson, who is over here, here's his bio over here. He's a associate professor of atmospheric science. Dargan and Haley came to us with this idea where apparently Dargan has software that can model the future of climate 50 years into the future, or however long in the future, given certain models of pollution and ozone depletion. But not just climate. He can give you the weather on particular dates and particular locations. So after a little bit of chatting around, we came up with the idea that it would be fun to think about what would happen 50 years in the future if we had these destination weddings where the ultimate party crasher came along, and that that wedding crasher was none other than climate change. So for that purpose, I think we chose 5 different locations around the world, and we said, hey, Dargan, tell us what the weather is going to be like in these places on these days, so we can come up with the most comically disastrous imaginings of these families as they get together. And I just want to show one of the invitations. So these invitations were, it's taking a little while to open. They were generated by Google Docs themselves. They, similar, you may have looked at other poetry generators during this class, but in a similar method, sort of following, and also Twitter bots work kind of the same way, following the Mad Lib style fill in the blanks. We had generated these wedding invitations, again, using some scripts that would combine these hilarious last names that Rob came up with largely, and then create, choose a location. So this is going to be in the Bund in Shanghai. And then we get this guest list that, again, is automatically being generated of 2 different groups. There's the groom side, or we didn't even say groom and bride because it could be any gender. So we said party A and party B. And then it generates all of these people. And then participants could sign up to play one person or another over on a Reddit board where we had, similar to Spidey Show, we had sort of scripted out 8 beats of the wedding that, again, Rob is a genius with these that he came up with. So I'll just, as he talks a little bit more about it, I'll scroll through one of the weddings so you can get a sense of the beats.
Yeah, so it's essentially sort of like the travel to the destination. What was that like? Everybody kind of debriefs about that. Then the rehearsal dinner, I think, I can't remember all of them exactly, but then there is a sort of the cold feet moment where one of the intended people getting married has second thoughts, and then the ceremony, and then the party, and then I think going home even. So it's sort of, all these various moments, and that was really just a nice way. There's enough sort of common experience in the culture that people could do their sharing. And the format of the writing was that, again, sort of the secret diary approach. This is, you get a character, so you have a relationship to the main characters in the event, and then you have one adjective like drunken or boisterous or something, like gives you a bit of a start of a character. And then this is what in terms of literary form, I call this a symphony of secret diaries, this project, where
Oh, that's
you're
good.
reading, and it allows people to have, as it happens in real life, they have very different accounts of the same event because they're coming from different point of view, and you don't have to worry about harmonizing. And like, that's one of the curses of traditional ways of doing collaborative writing, is that if you try to have a group of people that do a text that's like a single person would do, it's very difficult, and it's not very fun for most people. But if you have a situation where everybody gets to write completely what they want, and it doesn't conflict with sort of a shared reality of the event, and that's the optimum for
So,
Netprovs.
so in a lot of ways, this had a lot more in common with maybe like a murder mystery party you might throw for your friends, where everybody gets a character, and there are established generic conventions, because this is the big wedding movement, big wedding story, or like any big fat wedding, whatever, big fat Greek wedding it is, or Tony and Tina's wedding, which was a long running improv show of a similar structure. But instead, we're doing it through text, and text that collects over time, that's over scheduled beats, where people can play off of each other. So, yeah, just like Rob mentioned, we use the Google Docs to combine. You can see it like an adjective with a role in the wedding, and then whose side of the family they're attached to. And people could sign up for those.
Is that your phone, or is that my phone?
I think, oh, that's look at that right there in the front row. That's what's her name's phone.
Okay.
So we're just going to fit in a couple more, and then we're going to get you to our Netprov that we're going to do as class. So there's, this was a play off of, well, Rob can do better on this one, but I'll do quickly. This was a play off of those step counters. And we imagined that they had discovered that walking backwards is actually healthier. And so you would walk away from your goal in this particular Netprov.
And it was inspired by these apps that kind of keep you tantalized. In particular, a meditation timer. That all I ever wanted from this app was just like, the 10-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute meditation timer, right? And it just adding more and more features. So soon I would use it as a timer for meditation, and then it would say 1 day in a row, which sort of seemed kind of mean, like it's taunting me, or sort of, holding me to account. So it got me thinking about all the ways where people use the fitness apps as a way to kind of encourage themselves. But the fact that the success of it based on essentially discouraging you or kind of making you feel bad, right? So and this echoed this, what we've been kind of doing a number of Netprovs about, is about the way social media makes money by making you feel bad. Like, if you feel kind of vaguely dissatisfied when you get off of Facebook, for example, or Instagram, it's not by accident. That's very lucrative for them. So we did this thing, sort of like the workout, the gym coach of Sisyphus, so where it's like you're just almost getting to your goal but never quite getting it. So Mark did a bot that gave you just this amazingly subtly discouraging advice.
Yeah, the personal strainer. I forgot about that character.
That's right. Seems
And,
like, yeah. So the studies show, yeah. Anyway, there's some fun stuff in that. Yes, onward.
sorry. Um, Back at the start of the pandemic lockdown, we had moved online with our classes and moved online with everyone else, and we wanted to do a Netprov that would be useful in that time. And so we came up with this idea of fantasy spoils. I'd been sort of, well, for a long time, we had been talking about role playing games and their relationship to Netprov. And in fact, even from one of our earliest articles we wrote together, we talk about role playing games as in relationship to Netprov, because obviously it's improvisational, it's structured, it's rule based. and it also allows for collaborative creation. So for this one, rather than focus on the glory of fantasy medieval Middle Earth role play, we thought we would deal with the aftermath. Rob, you want to give a little bit
Yeah,
of a
so this,
setup?
yeah, and so again, I'm someone who hasn't played a lot of the role-playing games, but as you may have, if those of you who are like me that don't have much experience, Dungeons and Dragons is kind of the classic one where you get a roll, and then there's sort of complex ways and interesting ways of rolling dice to see whether you achieve various goals, but it is a form of structured improv. So yeah, so we built this Netprov not about the kind of glorious achievements, but of sort of the real life aftermath, the lawsuits and the repairs and the medical bills that would happen right after one of those other um, big campaigns. And in fact, this was Fantasy Spoils is billed as the successor to the sequel to Ultimate Final Victory. And it always just still cracks me up that that there is a sequel to Ultimate Final Victory, which sounds pretty conclusive. And as part of the Dungeons and Dragons universe, those of you who know about it will know that there are these wonderful descriptions of the monsters you encounter, and Mark did a fantastic job of writing these amazing kind of COVID year monsters.
Yeah, so there was uh, a lack of motivation, blubbering bureaucracy, endless ennui, uh, and several others in our critter database. And we took these basically into, this is our first foray into Discord as a platform. So I think one of the things that Rob has made clear to you is that Netprov really loves, well, he considers us cuckoo birds because we lay nests in other birds. We lay
We
eggs in other,
other birds' nests,
we lay
yes.
birds and other eggs nests. Um, and one of those we came across that, again, that the game lovers really enjoy is called Discord. I don't know if you've used it before, but you're probably using it for this class. So I guess you've gotten some introduction to it. And using Discord, we were able to run Fantasy Spoils as both an asynchronous and synchronous netprov. So I think you guys are getting the idea. Well, you know those terms, right, from all your Zooming you've probably been doing this past year, or if you've had to teach a class, that there is such a thing as asynchronous content and synchronous. So going back to Spidey Show, right, you could say that the shows, the performances, those were are synchronous content. And then
Yeah,
the
so
week
1 hour
during the week,
live where
there's
you
asynchronous.
tried to get everybody together at the same time in real time to play, and then yeah, for the rest of the week you could participate at any moment. So that's where the Netprov that we now invite you to play as your little exercise for this class. And if you want to do a Netprov for your final project, you're highly encouraged to do so. That would be fun. I recommend it. But Grace, Wit, and Charm is a Netprov that also happens in Discord. So Grace, Wit, and Charm is an
Oh,
imaginary
oh, wait, wait,
company.
wait.
Yes.
Speaking of phones, Davin is calling me right now
Oh,
on my
okay.
phone. So let's pause for a second and we'll take this call and then we'll rejoin you guys because listen. And and Astrid's online too. So maybe we
Yeah.
said
Okay.
something
Yeah.
inappropriate. I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll be right back.
So you're going to get an invitation to Discord, and I'm sure you all know about Discord, but I was interested as I got to know it last year to know that it was originally created for role-playing games and then has subsequently become kind of a general use social medium. But you'll find yourself here in the Grace, Wit, and Charm server, and the instructions really are: read the top message in About This Netprov, which describes Grace, Wit, and Charm, which is an imaginary company that helps people enhance their self-presentation online. And it offers 3 services. Grace, which is a motion capture system that makes your avatar move more gracefully. Wit, which ghostwrites jokes for your various feeds. And charm is for the shy, and it helps you conduct relationships of all kinds. Particularly important over this last year as we played it has been sort of family relationships in COVID time. So very fun. So that's the basic concept. Then over here in the next channel down, how to play, you'll find a set of instructions. So there are basically two modes. You'll kind of invent a customer character and write some requests, like how can Grace, Wit, and Charm help you? And there's some examples there. And then once you can check back to see if anybody who is playing is going to pretend to be a employee of Grace, Wit, and Charm and to answer your question. So that, and if even if nobody does from the company answers your question, then you're encouraged to, after maybe a day goes by or something like that, you write back and you pretend that, you know, to give a review of what happened with your Grace, Wit, and Charm assistants. So so that's the sort of basic way to play.
And
Now, as
then we got a couple. We've got a couple more rooms too that you can play in. There's, you could take a break in the break room if you have to. If you want to do a quick character sketch of yourself, you can nominate yourself for Agent of the Month.
And so this, since this is a power group, so that's the basic way to play Grace, Wit, and Charm is kind of pretend to be a customer. You present a problem, which is kind of what, based on, you know, issues with self-presentation that you see around you in your social media worlds that you travel among. And you know, it could be a game, could be text chat with friends, could be, you know, all kinds of things. And you just find the little moment and then you review how Grace, Wit, and Charm dealt with it. And if you're feeling confident about that, I do open the invitation that you can pretend to be one of the customer assistance agents that works for Grace, Wit, and Charm, and kind of begin responding to people. So for example, that works especially well if you know someone in this class and you can kind of say, do you want to play a little duet with me? So here, I'm going to ask a question. Each of you ask a question, and then each of you kind of answer it on behalf of the company as a company representative. And again, for all of these things, I would say just go back into the challenge requests channel and some of the other channels and do some reading of how other people have played, and you'll get a sense of how it goes, what you want to do the same, what you want to do differently, and that'll set you up, and that's all there is to it.
I think if we were to unveil the unspoken aspect of this writing challenge, it's to imagine, almost to the point of absurdity, you know, what are the online circumstances in which someone would want to present themselves that they'd want a little Cyrano de Bergerac or a little someone else to do there, to be a stand-in for them, a body double, or where they'd really want to filter. Like, maybe a way to think of it is, what's the least appropriate place where you could filter your self presentation, or maybe which one of those new online spaces that hasn't existed before, right? Like a Zoom wedding or something like that, where you can imagine someone wanting to look their best, right? And maybe they're not the bride or the groom, or maybe they're, you know, just the person who's going to give the toast, and so they want someone else to stand in for them while they're giving their toast, or to create polished effects so that they come off just the right way. And again, the more you play with our online identities, the more you're having fun with Grace, Wit, and Charm, while realizing that essentially the back end is essentially the office comedy, like The Office, where, you know, agents have good days and bad days, and they give good advice and bad advice, or they tend to, or maybe some have a personality where they tend to give certain, you know, certain advice over others, or they have favorite filters or whatnot. One thing I want to point out about Grace, Wit, and Charm we haven't talked to you about is 10 years ago, in the original production of this, there was the first version of that synchronous asynchronous quality, because Grace, Wit, and Charm had a 2-week running backstory of the various characters woven in, played by some of the actors, and some were ghost written by other people, including myself. And then there were 2 bookended live theater shows. This is 2011. Imagine this, where participants, some of whom you've read about in, you know, like Stephanie Strickland and folks like that, are writing into the show making live requests. Rob, acting as the boss and MC, is taking these requests live from the chat stream, right?
From
Live through the
Twitter,
interface.
yeah.
And he's asking these improv actors to respond to them on their set, which is the Office of Great Wit and Charm. There, you'll see in some of the videos we link to, they're wearing the full black bodysuits with these big white things stuck on them, like they're motion capture suits, and they're in the moment helping people with their golf swing, or even doing remote surgery for them. So it was really still to this day one of the most groundbreaking of the Netprovs, and something that is that continues to inspire us as we create new ones. All right, Rob, what do you think? That's
Exactly.
about.
I
That
think
might be
that's it.
20 minutes. Do you
Have
think that's 20
fun.
minutes?
Yeah, I think that's about 20
Yeah,
minutes.
if you, I'm looking at
In
the little counter down there. It
in
looks like
Mars
we
in
might have
Mars
done.
time, I think.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly, like Interstellar. We've
So
just
thanks for hanging in. Thanks for your interest in Netprov and for doing this class and coming to listen and play with us and really have fun. Just goof around with the Netprov, have fun, be
And I just want to
creative.
say one thing: is neither Rob or I have a Patreon right now, but there is Rate My Professor. So if you want to just go there and write some fictional reviews of our classes, that would really
That's
be
right.
appreciated. And I think that's it, Rob.
All right.
All right. Good luck, class. Thanks for coming. If someone wants to wake up Johnny back there, that would be great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's kind of asleep, but that's okay. There'll be a recording of this, right? For
Yeah.
people afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks
Good.
so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.